It was the kind of Saturday morning that real estate brochures promise, but rarely deliver. Perfect sun, manicured lawns, and a silence so expensive you could almost hear the property values rising. In the gated community of Emerald Lake, order wasn't just a rule, it was a religion. But that order was about to be shattered when a black, unauthorized SUV rolled up to the driveway of the newest resident, a man the HOA president had already labeled undesirable. Neighbors thought they were about to watch an eviction. They thought they were about to see a squatter humiliated. 3 people stepped onto that driveway. 2 wore tactical vests and carried batons. 1 carried a clipboard and a grudge. They came to enforce their own twisted version of the law. They came to break a man they saw as weak. But they made a catastrophic calculation error. They didn't know that the man holding the garden hose wasn't just a homeowner, he was a weapon of the United States government. And by the time the real sirens started wailing, it wasn't the homeowner leaving in handcuffs. Marcus Sterling was a man who appreciated the quiet. After 22 years in the Federal Bureau of Investigation, specifically in the Counterterrorism Division, silence was a luxury. He had spent decades in rooms where the air was thick with smoke, deception, and the metallic smell of fear. Emerald Lake was supposed to be his exhale. He had moved in 3 weeks ago. He bought the house at the end of the cul-de-sac, not because it was grand, but because it had good sight lines and backed up to a forest preserve. Old habits die hard. On this particular Saturday, Marcus was engaging in a ritual that was entirely normal for a suburban dad, yet somehow controversial for him. He was detailing his 1969 Mustang. He moved with a slow, deliberate rhythm. To an untrained eye, he looked relaxed. To a trained eye, he was hyper-aware. He felt the neighborhood watching him. It was a physical sensation, like a prickle on the back of his neck. Since the day the moving truck pulled away, the atmosphere had been cold. It started with small things. A trash can knocked over. Mail accidentally delivered to the wrong house and opened. Then came the patrols. Victoria Vance, the HOA president, would slow roll her Lexus past his house 3-4 times a day. She never waved. She just stared behind designer sunglasses, taking notes. Marcus knew the type. He had profiled domestic extremists who had less zealotry than Victoria Vance. She viewed Emerald Lake not as a neighborhood, but as a fiefdom, and she viewed Marcus as a stain on her pristine map. He was wiping down the chrome bumper when he heard the heavy crunch of tires on gravel. It wasn't the mail carrier. The engine sounded rough, poorly maintained. Marcus didn't turn immediately. He kept his back to the street, his hand continuing the circular motion on the fender. He listened. Car door opens. Heavy slam. Second door. Third door. Footsteps. 1 pair of heels. Sharp, aggressive clicking. 2 pairs of boots. Heavy, dragging slightly. Untrained. "Hey, you!" a male voice barked. It was trying to sound authoritative but cracked slightly at the end. Marcus sighed, a long, weary exhale. He placed his microfiber cloth on the hood of the Mustang. He checked his internal emotional barometer. Calm, steady, cold. He turned around slowly. Standing at the edge of his property line was a trio that looked like a bad Halloween costume of a SWAT team. Victoria Vance stood in the center, flanked by 2 men in black cargo pants and tactical vests that looked like they were bought from a discount surplus store. The neighbors were already reacting. Garage doors were opening halfway. Mrs. Higgins from next door was peering through her blinds. A teenager down the block, Tyler, had stopped his bike and was pulling out his phone. The stage was set. Victoria smirked, clutching her clipboard like a weapon. "We need to have a conversation about your occupancy," she announced. Marcus looked at them. He didn't see threats. He saw liabilities. But he also knew that cornered animals, even incompetent ones, bite. Marcus didn't step off his driveway. He stayed on his turf, planting his feet shoulder-width apart, a neutral stance, but one that allowed for instant movement. "Good morning, Victoria," Marcus said. His voice was a low rumble, polite but completely void of warmth. To what do I owe the pleasure? Victoria bristled. She hated that he wasn't afraid. She wanted fear. She fed on it. That is President Vance to you. And this isn't a social call. These men are officers of the Community Enforcement Unit. We are here to address your repeated violations. Marcus shifted his gaze to the officers. He dissected them in seconds. The one on the left, let's call him Bronson, was the aggressor. Tall, buzz-cut, mirrored sunglasses, chewing gum aggressively. He had a baton on his belt and zip ties dangling from his vest. His chest was puffed out, eager for a fight. The one on the right, Miller, was different. He was softer, older. He kept shifting his weight. His eyes were darting around the street, looking at the neighbors. He was uncomfortable. He knew this felt wrong. Community Enforcement Unit? Marcus repeated, raising an eyebrow. I read the bylaws, Victoria. There is no such unit. Did you hire private security to harass a homeowner? We hired protection, Victoria snapped, her voice rising so the neighbors could hear. To protect this community from elements that don't belong. We've had reports, drug activity, loud noises at all hours, strange cars coming and going. My car, Marcus said, gesturing to the Mustang. And my brother's sedan. He visited last week. Is family illegal now? We know your type, Bronson interrupted, stepping forward. He hooked his thumbs into his tactical vest, trying to look intimidating. You rent this place with cash, right? No credit check? We know how guys like you cycle through neighborhoods, trashing the place, lowering property values. The racism wasn't subtle anymore. It was out in the open, baking in the sun. Marcus ignored Bronson and looked at Miller, the nervous one. You, Marcus said softly. What company do you work for? What's your bonding number? Miller blinked, startled. We're independent contractors. Direct hire by the HOA board. Independent contractors, Marcus repeated. So you're not bonded, you're not insured. And looking at those vests, no plates? That's just nylon and foam, isn't it? Bronson stepped in front of Miller. Shut up about the vests. We're here to enforce the eviction notice. You are in violation of the moral clause of the community charter. You have 30 minutes to vacate the premises, or we remove you. The audacity hung in the air. A forced eviction on a Saturday morning by fake cops. You can't evict a homeowner without a court order, Marcus said calmly. And I assure you, I am the owner on the deed. Victoria laughed, a high-pitched mocking sound. Oh, please. We ran a background check. There's no employment record for a Marcus Sterling in the state. No LinkedIn, no company bio. You're a ghost, and ghosts are usually criminals hiding money. Or, Marcus said, his voice dropping an octave, I have a job that doesn't require me to post about it on social media. By now, the audience had grown. The Hendersons, an elderly couple across the street, were standing on their porch. Mr. Henderson looked worried. Victoria, he called out, his voice shaking. Maybe you should call the sheriff if there's a problem. This doesn't look right. Stay out of this, Harold, Victoria screamed, not even looking at him. I am handling what you people are too scared to handle. She turned back to Marcus. You are trespassing on a community of high moral standing. Bronson, detain him. We'll hold him in the vehicle until he agrees to leave. The word detain changed the temperature of the encounter. Marcus didn't move, but his focus sharpened. He locked eyes with Bronson. Son, listen to me very carefully. You are about to cross a line you can't come back from. Bronson scoffed. Don't call me son. I'm trying to save you from a felony, Marcus continued, his voice steady, lecturing. Title 18, U.S. Code, Section 912. Impersonating an officer or employee of the United States, or acting with asserted authority to detain. That's 3 years in federal prison. Not county jail, federal prison. Miller tugged on Bronson's sleeve. He leaned in, whispering loud enough for the camera to catch. Hey, Bronson, man. He knows the codes. Maybe we should just back off? Let's wait for the cops. Bronson shoved Miller's hand away. He's bluffing. He Googled that. Look at him. He's washing a car. He's not a lawyer. I'm not a lawyer, Marcus agreed. I'm the guy who puts people in prison. Victoria stamped her foot, losing patience. Stop letting him talk. He's manipulating you. He's trying to scare you because he's weak. Do your job, or I am firing you right now and suing your agency for breach of contract. Bronson's ego, fueled by Victoria's shrieking and the watching neighbors, took over. He unclipped the large plastic zip ties from his belt. Turn around, Bronson commanded. Hands behind your back. You're coming with us. Marcus didn't flinch. He didn't take a fighting stance. He stood completely relaxed, hands at his sides. I am giving you a lawful order to leave my property immediately. If you advance, I will view it as a threat to my life and liberty. Lawful order? Bronson laughed. You ain't the law, buddy. I am. Bronson took a step onto the driveway, then another. He was now within striking distance. Miller stayed back, looking terrified. Bronson, don't, Miller pleaded. Last chance, Marcus said. His eyes were cold, devoid of anger, filled only with calculation. Walk away. Make me, Bronson snarled, reaching out to grab Marcus's shoulder. The tension broke. The verbal chess match was over. Bronson had made his move. Now he was about to find out why you never touch a man who has spent 20 years hunting predators. It wasn't a fight. A fight implies two people participating. This was a correction. As Bronson's hand reached for the fabric of Marcus's shirt, Marcus didn't punch him. He didn't kick him. He didn't do a backflip. Marcus stepped into the space, closing the distance instantly. His left hand shot up, clamping onto Bronson's wrist like a steel vise. In the same motion, Marcus rotated his hips and applied a standing wrist lock, a compliance technique designed to inflict maximum pain with minimum effort. Bronson's knees buckled immediately. A yelp of pain escaped his lips as his body was forced to follow the torque of his wrist. Down, Marcus commanded. It wasn't a shout. It was a directive. Bronson collapsed to his knees on the concrete, gasping. Marcus stepped behind him, maintaining the pressure on the wrist, keeping Bronson pinned to the ground solely through leverage. With his free hand, Marcus snatched the zip ties from Bronson's other hand. Hands behind your back, Marcus said. My arm! You're breaking my arm! Bronson screamed, the toughness completely evaporating. Do it! Now! Marcus applied a fraction more pressure. Bronson complied instantly, sobbing as he put his other hand back. Zip! The sound was loud in the sudden silence of the street. Marcus tightened the restraint, checking it for safety, habit, and then stepped back. Bronson was on his knees, head bowed, defeated in less than 4 seconds. Miller, the second guard, froze. He looked at his baton, then at Marcus, then dropped his hands. I'm not doing anything, Miller stammered, backing away toward the SUV. I didn't touch you. Stay right there, Marcus ordered. Miller stopped dead. Victoria Vance stood with her mouth open, her clipboard dangling from her hand. Her brain couldn't process the image. The thug she hired was on his knees, and the squatter was standing over him, barely out of breath. You maniac! Victoria shrieked, finding her voice. You assaulted him! I have it on video! You're going to jail for life! Help! Someone help! She looked at the neighbors, desperate for an ally. Why are you just standing there? Tackle him! Nobody moved. The neighbors were staring at Marcus, because Marcus was reaching into his back pocket. He pulled out a slim leather wallet. He didn't flash it quickly. He held it up, high and steady, turning it slowly so the neighbors, Victoria, and the camera phone recording down the street could see it clearly. The gold badge caught the sunlight. The Federal Eagle, the bold blue letters, Federal Bureau of Investigation, Special Agent. I am Special Agent Marcus Sterling, he announced, his voice carrying down the entire block. And this man is under arrest for assaulting a federal officer. The silence that followed was absolute. Victoria stared at the badge. Her face went pale, then red. "No," she whispered. Then she screamed, "Fake! It's a fake! You printed that! You're a fraud!" She marched toward him, finger pointing. "You think I'm stupid? You think I don't know what a real badge looks like? You're just a con artist." "Victoria, stop," Marcus said, his voice dangerously low. "I will not stop. I am the president of this association, and I order you to release him." She reached for Marcus, grabbing at his arm to pull him away from Bronson. "Don't," Marcus warned. But she did. She grabbed his arm. Before Marcus could even react to her, the sound of sirens cut through the air. Not distant sirens, immediate ones. 2 sheriff's cruisers whipped around the corner, lights blazing, tires screeching as they blocked the end of the cul-de-sac. "Thank God!" Victoria yelled, letting go of Marcus and waving frantically at the cars. "Officer! Officer! Arrest this man! He has a gun! He's crazy!" Marcus just stood there, badge still in hand, watching the real law arrive. The game was over. But Victoria was about to play her final losing hand. Sheriff's Deputy Ramirez, a broad-shouldered man who had patrolled this county for 15 years, stepped out of the lead cruiser. He didn't have his gun drawn, but his hand was resting on the holster. His partner, a younger deputy, flanked him. They took in the scene instantly. The man on his knees in zip ties, the woman screaming, the tall man standing calmly with a badge in his hand. "Officer!" Victoria ran toward Ramirez. "You need to take him down. He assaulted my security team. He's claiming to be an agent. Look at him. He's clearly lying." Ramirez ignored her. He walked straight past her, his eyes locked on Marcus. He looked at the badge Marcus was holding. He looked at Marcus's face. Recognition dawned on him. "Agent Sterling?" Ramirez asked, his tone respectful. "Dispatch flagged your address when the calls started coming in. Code 3. "Deputy," Marcus nodded, putting his badge away. "I have one suspect in custody for assault and attempted unlawful restraint. The other one," he pointed to Miller, who was shaking by the SUV, "is an accessory, but he's cooperating." "And her?" Ramirez jerked his head toward Victoria. Victoria gasped. "Me? I'm the victim! I called you! I want him arrested for fraud, for squatting." Ramirez turned to Victoria. His patience was visibly gone. "Mrs. Vance, we've talked about this. You can't hire thugs to harass residents, but today you went too far." "I didn't do anything," Victoria cried, looking around at the neighbors. Tell them he's dangerous." The neighbors stayed silent. Then Mr. Henderson, the older man across the street, stepped off his porch. "She ordered them to attack him, deputy," he said, his voice clear. "We all heard it. The man gave them every chance to leave. She told them to get physical." "Traitor!" Victoria hissed at Mr. Henderson. "Mrs. Vance," Ramirez said, pulling his handcuffs from his belt. "Turn around." "Excuse me?" Victoria laughed nervously. "You can't be serious. I know the sheriff. We play golf." "Then you can tell him about this in the holding cell. You solicited an assault on a federal agent. That's a felony. Turn around." The reality finally hit her. The color drained from her face completely. "But I'm the president." "Not anymore," Marcus said softly. As Ramirez clicked the cuffs onto Victoria, she didn't fight. She crumpled. The arrogance that had fueled her for years evaporated, leaving just a scared, prejudiced woman who had destroyed her own life. Deputies loaded Bronson, who was weeping now, into one car, and Victoria into another. Miller was being questioned by the side of the road, spilling everything about the illegal hiring practices. As the chaos wound down, the street quieted. Marcus walked back to his Mustang. He picked up the microfiber cloth from the hood. Deputy Ramirez walked over before leaving. "Agent Sterling, sorry, welcome to the neighborhood. We'll handle the paperwork. You good?" "I'm good, Deputy," Marcus said. "Thanks for the assist." Ramirez nodded and drove off. Marcus stood alone in his driveway. The teen Tyler was still filming. Marcus looked at him and gave a small nod. Tyler lowered the phone, finally understanding the gravity of what he had captured. Mr. Henderson walked across the street, hesitating at the edge of the driveway. Agent Sterling, Marcus, I apologize. We should have said something sooner. About her. About how she treats people. Marcus looked at the older man. He saw the regret. Fear is a powerful thing, Mr. Henderson. It makes good people quiet. But silence is consent. It won't be quiet anymore, Mr. Henderson promised. Not like that. Marcus watched him walk back. He turned back to his car, finally resuming the circular motion on the fender. The sun was setting now, casting long shadows across Emerald Lake. He wasn't just the quiet guy at the end of the block anymore. He was the line in the sand. He had shown them that authority isn't about who shouts the loudest or who wears the most gear. True authority is calm. True authority is disciplined. And true authority serves the law, it doesn't weaponize it. Marcus Sterling had come here for peace, and he realized that sometimes, to get peace, you have to be willing to fight for it.